In today's show, Highkin is back, and we're talking over-unders. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Available wherever you get podcasts, and coming at you 3 times a week, all August long. Make it your first listen every day that one is available. It's Locked On Blazers, your team most days. In today's episode, Highkin, the author and owner of Rose Garden Report, is back, and we're playing a game. I got over-unders to pitch to Sean, and he is going to make some predictions. Most of them are meaningless, but it's still going to be a whole bunch of fun. Sean, thanks for sticking around for a third episode. I am so thankful that you could be here.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm happy to do it.
All right, you ready for some over-unders?
Yeah.
All right, over-under 8.5 games played in a Portland Trailblazers uniform by Damian Lamont Ollie Lillard in the 23-24 NBA season.
Just to be consistent, I said in the episode where we actually talked about that whole situation that I think he's going to end up in Miami, but I think it's going to happen in December or January. So just by virtue of that and the fact that I really don't think that even if he's still on the team, he's going to sit out or they're going to sit him out or anything like that. If he is on the roster, he will play. So I'm going to, just for the sake of consistency, I'm going to say over. But I'm not confident in that at all.
Yeah, so 8 is the number of games that James Harden played for the Houston Rockets during the 2020-2021 season. You anticipated my next question. I don't think there's a world where if Damian Lillard is on the roster, he's on the couch. Do you?
No chance. No chance. Yeah. That's why it was so, and I don't think we got to this part of it really in the episode where when the Goodwin side tried to leak pretty early on in this that if he's not traded to Miami, he won't report to camp. People took that about as seriously as they took LeBron acting like he was going to retire. People were just like, yeah, okay, dude, whatever. Because that's just not who Dame is. There is no chance he sits out.
Yeah, and it's like who knows what was actually said, because I think there's some of the reporting was consistent with what Aaron Goodwin told the NBA and the other things but
right.
The move, that was the memo from the league that I'm mocking, but it's like the move is just say, if you trade for him, he won't want to be here. That gets the message across.
But also, what's Dame gonna do?
Who knows?
What's he gonna do? Not show up? He's not gonna do that. That's
forfeit something like $160,000.
Forfeit a ton of money and also completely blow up this whole reputation that he's built for 11 years as I'm the loyalty guy. I'm the guy that does stuff the right way. He's not gonna suddenly turn around and be a different person than he was for the first 11 years of it. There's no chance that happens. And by the way. If he is still on the team at the start of the season, I don't think Scoot is going to be upset about that. Scoot has been pretty open about, wanting to... I had on my podcast, right after the draft, it was, the week between the draft and the trade request when there was still, a possibility that, Dame was going to be cool with just, playing with Scoot. Before we knew for sure that he was going to ask for a trade. We kind of thought it was going to happen, but it hadn't actually happened yet. I had Miran Fader on my podcast, who wrote, I think, one of the first big profiles of Scoot that anybody wrote back in December. It was after that game he played against Wemby in Las Vegas. People were just starting to learn who he was. I had Miran on. She's a friend. She's the best, whatever. But she was telling me about how Scoot had sent Dame a DM on Instagram saying, hey, I'm Scoot Henderson. I just signed with the G League. Can you give me some advice? And Dame responded, and they went back and forth. And Scoot was Miran was telling me, Scoot was showing her his phone and was oh my God, can you believe Dame actually responded to me? This is cool. He would be pretty fired up to play with Dame. I'm pretty comfortable saying that.
I agree, and I think Scoot has enough perspective to know that some guys are if they were to pick third overall, they'd be I need to play 35 minutes a night or whatever.
But
yeah, I think he understands the score of the game. Is that eventually he'll get that? But yeah.
And Scoot is also he just the what little I've been able, I haven't gotten to know him well yet, just because we haven't gotten that much time around it. Just like, it's basically just like the opening press conference and like the little time we spent around him in Vegas. But like, I've watched a ton of interviews with him. I've started following him on social media. He has just like posted, like he randomly just like posted Kyle Kuzma randomly today on his Instagram story for no reason. Like he just is like a basketball junkie and just like like Chauncey has talked about this before, where like, I mean, so Scoot was born. I don't remember what off the top of my head what year Scoot was born. It was probably like 2003, 2000. It was like he's pretty young. He's 19, so he would have been born in like 03 or 04, right? So he was literally a baby when Chauncey was playing in Detroit.
He was born in February of 2004, so he was born basically at the trade deadline in 04.
When they traded
Him and Rasheed
Wallace's Pistons tenure are the same age. The point being, he was literally a baby when that Pistons team won the title, and Chauncey was talking about, like, there is no reason for Scoot Henderson to know who Chauncey Billups is as a player. Because it's not like he grew up watching those teams. He was literally...
I think Chauncey's last year in the league was 2013, so Scoot was like... What,
9? And by that point, Chauncey was like a journeyman, and he wasn't. He had the torn Achilles. Totally. He wasn't the same guy that he was when Scoot was literally a baby, and so there's no reason for him to know who Chauncey is. But Chauncey has talked about how like he was like blown away that like the first time he talked to Scoot like knew who he was and knew his career and was like asking him questions about his career. Like Scoot hasn't, like, just from what little I've been able to kind of glean, he has an appreciation for like guys like that and like is eager to like learn from them. So I think he would be, the question is how open is Dame going to be if he doesn't want to be there to, being the mentor. But like, I think from Scoot's end, Scoot would be pretty excited about playing with Dame, even though you would think he wants to be the guy from day one.
Yeah, and listen, he'll be the guy from day one, 2024. For the record, I'm taking the under on 8.5 games. Okay, sure. over under 6.5 assists for Scoot Henderson as a rookie. 6.5 assists per game for Scoot as a rookie.
I'm going to go over just because he's going to have so much usage.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be very efficient. I think the turnovers might also be high. I think it might be like a rookie Russell Westbrook type of situation there where like he has a lot of assists, but he also has a lot of turnovers. So I'm going to go over just on the pure like counting stats.
Me too. I would go over as well. For the record, that number comes from Damian Lillard, who averaged 6.5 assists per game as a rookie.
Okay.
The Blazers' team record for assists as a rookie is Kelvin Ramsey from the 1980-81 season. He averaged 6.9 assists per game.
I gotta file that name away for a Hoop Grids.
Yeah. Here's a better one on Kelvin Ramsey. So I'm looking this up. I'm doing a little research. I do a little research for the pod. I get prepared to do these. I'm looking up Kelvin Ramsey. I go to his basketball reference page, and his nickname is Mrs. Butterworth. And I was like, okay, I got to find out what this is about. So Kelvin Ramsey played 2 seasons with the Blazers. He's a rookie in 80-81. Then he gets paid the following season in 81-82. He signs a contract. And Michael Thompson, who's a Blazers number 1 overall pick, I believe in 79. Michael Thompson starts calling him Butterworth because he got a new contract and he was rich and thick. Truly an incredible nickname.
That's
Kelvin,
strong.
Kelvin
We don't have nicknames like that anymore.
No, we don't. I was talking with a friend about this. This is a golden age of nicknames.
Everybody's nickname is just their initials and their number, or like, or just like, it's so the only good nickname that's come into the league in the last couple of years is Davion Mitchell being called Off Night. Like that's just a phenomenal nickname. But everybody
is really good.
Everybody else is just like, oh, Kyle Kuzma, his nickname is Kuz because it's just like a shortening of his name. Like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Honestly, Scoot is a pretty great nickname too, even though like it's essentially his name because he goes by it, but that's not his government name. His government name is Sterling Jewel Henderson, which is all like equally cool.
It is a very cool name. Okay, I got more over-unders. I got less nicknames, more over-unders. That's what we'll do in the second segment. Join us there, won't you? Today's show brought to you by FanDuel. And guess what? It's football season. FanDuel's giving you a chance to win all season long because right now, when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. So get in early, place your futures bets on who's going to win in February, and then celebrate it all fall long. Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl, get bonus bets for every victory they get during the year. So once you get your bonus bets for those wins, you can bet on things like spreads, props, over-unders, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. All right, still chatting with Sean Highkin on the Rose Garden Report. Still playing over-unders. Okay, I got one for you. 40% from three for Jerami Grant. Over, under 40% on the year from Jerami Grant.
Under. Just because he's going to have more attempts because he's like one of the only actual like reliable veterans on the team, and just because the attempts are going to go up, I think the efficiency is going to go down. I don't think it's going to fall off a cliff. I don't think it's going to get into the low 30s, but I think it's going to be more high 30s than what it was last year.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. So I looked this up just for context. Last year, he shot a career best 40.1% from three. With Damian Lillard on the court, 40.6% from three, so above his season average. And with Dame off the court, I expected to be wider splits because I expected Dame creates better shots by creating more attention. Players don't make the game. Good players do not make their teammates better. They make the game easier for worse players. That is actually how basketball works. I expected Dame made the game easier for Jerami. Not that big of a drop off. With Dame off the court, 39.2% from three. So he shot pretty darn well in the games that Dame missed. He was on a tear early from three.
Yeah.
Like early in the season, he was on an absolute tear. So, who knows if he'll continue that. For his career, he's a 35.8% three-point shooter. He's never shot, his first year in Denver, he shot 39% from three. His last year in OKC and first year in Denver, he shot 39% from three. But otherwise, he's been consistently below that. And I'm with you. The volume is going to be too high for him to continue that efficiency. I'm also under. Okay, over 17 points per game for Shaedon Sharpe.
Over. Because I think with Dame presumably not there, like those shots, those touches have to go to somebody, and Shaedon, I think, is somebody that the organization and the coaching staff is going to be motivated to force feed. I don't know what the efficiency is going to be, but I think, again, just like with Scoot's assists, the raw number counting stat I would go over on.
Yeah, I think 17 is close to my limit. I'm sketchy on 17 because Scoot's going to shoot a lot. Jeremy's going to shoot a lot.
Ant's going to shoot a lot.
Ant's going to shoot a lot. If Nurk is still there, whoo. We might see a whole nother Nurk, and I have a question for you coming up about that one. So I will lean under, but I'm cautious under. The number I was thinking about here at 17.0 is one, his jersey number. Two, Desmond Bane, his rookie year, Desmond Bane averaged 9.2 points per game, and then in year two, Bane averaged 18.2. He kind of took off. Different situation because the Grizzlies, second best player, Jaren Jackson, isn't like a high volume offense guy. Dylan Brooks can only hijack so many possessions. Tyus Jones passes the ball a lot. It's sort of the backup point guard is like not a scoring point guard. So it's not a perfect one, but I do think the way that Bane was like, you're going to be good. And then in year two, it was like, you are good, is Shaedon is primed for something like that. Obviously, Bane had played more college basketball and all that stuff.
If Shaedon Sharpe has the career arc of Desmond Bane, who just got the not like super max, but he got like the full non-designated rookie max, and most people were
25% giant
and
max,
most people were like, yeah, that's a good deal.
Yeah.
If Shaedon becomes that good in year two and year three, that's a pretty good outcome for Portland.
Yeah,
like
if after his third season he's signing a 25% max and everyone's reaction is like, nice, good job. Yeah. Then it's like
if Scoot is Ja Morant without the other stuff, and Shaedon is Desmond Bane, that's a pretty good outcome for the Blazers as far as this rebuild goes.
Yeah, it gets into that sort of like hallowed back-to-back drafts type of stuff. Where
then you get to like, oh, they're the new Oklahoma City, they're the new Orlando, where like all the League Pass nerds are really excited about them, even though they're not very good yet. Like I could see Portland being that type of team and talked about in that way in like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I think year two they have a real potential. Next season, year two of the Scoot era, they have real potential to be the beloved bad team, like a team that scraps to win 38 games. And
what Oklahoma City is now.
Yeah, they're so tight. Like there's, and also like just for development stuff, like if you hit the stars If Scoot's a star and Shaedon is a star, it's so much easier to build out the rest of the roster with role players.
Yeah.
If you don't and you're still searching for stars, then that's when a rebuild takes a long time. That's when the tail gets long.
That's when it's like Orlando post Dwight, where they were nothing for like 12 years after that.
Yeah, but if you nail the top end talent, which the Blazers may have, certainly jury's still out. It's Scoot Henderson's played 21 summer.
I think Scoot's going to be. I'm more sure about Scoot than I am about Shaedon.
Me too.
As like a top end guy.
Me too. I think Shaedon Sharpe has a much wider range of outcomes, and I think Scoot's outcome is like almost certainly a high level starter. Is like I think being for me, I think Scoot's floor is very good starter.
Yes.
And beyond that, he has a very high level of potential. Okay, I got more questions. Let's close the show with 3 more over-unders. And then at Sean's marathon week on Locked on Blazers will finally come to an end. Join us in that third segment, won't you? Still a pass first point guard. Still Mike Richmond. You're still listening to Locked on Blazers. Still chatting here with Sean Highkin of Rose Garden Report. Okay, we've already kind of talked about this. We kind of hit this one because you're good at this. You know what's going on with the team. Over under 40.5 starts for Matisse Thybulle.
Under, just because I think different guys get injured, different stuff gets, especially when, again, we're assuming Dame gets traded and they go into a full rebuild. Chauncey is going to want to look at different lineups and try different stuff out and try different combinations and try okay, well, what if we brought Nas into the starting lineup and brought Matisse off the bench for 10 games? Like, when a team is rebuilding, and you're not like a guy like Scoot who has to be the starter because he's like what the entire thing is built around.
Or Jerami Grant, who's super paid. Sure, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They're going to have to move stuff. Teams and coaches usually move stuff around and try different stuff out. So just because of that, I think I'm going to go under.
Yeah, I think 40.5 was too many now that I'm looking at this number. I think I probably should have gone 30.5. And then I could have gotten more action. That's how betting lines work, man. That's just a bad line. I am not a FanDuel expert. I'm just a podcaster in my basement.
Gunderson is more. This is more his wheelhouse. How the actual action works, and I don't partake.
Well, hey, one day we'll get you in there. Okay, over under 199.5 3-point attempts for Yusuf Nurkic. So for context, he took 119 in 53 games last year. So 199.5. Is it 200 or less than 200?
I'm going to go over just because he's going to have more shots.
And he's going to put them up.
Again, if they're rebuilding and they're not trying to be a playoff team, Chauncey is going to give him a little bit. Because there were definitely times last year, once he started making them semi-consistently, we started asking
pretty well.
Yeah, we started asking Chauncey about it, and Chauncey was like, I do think it's legit. He does work on it, so I'm happy with him taking them if they're open. But then at a certain point, if he's missed 2 in a row, I'm just like, okay, dude, you need to, tone it. Maybe that's enough for this game. I think if they're actively rebuilding and they're not the goal is not to win games and make the playoffs, he's going to have a little bit of a longer leash for that. So just because of that, I think you go over on the number of attempts.
Yeah, I think that's right too. Also, if Nurk's here and Nurk's kind of I can see a situation where there's just some nights where things go south and Nurk takes 11 3-pointers and you're like, oh my God. Oh my God. What happened?
That's going to be really entertaining. Yeah.
Yeah. He shot right at the league average last year. He was 36.5% from 3.
He's gotten to a point where you have to at least you have to at least pay attention to it when he's shooting.
Yeah. They still don't guard him.
But
I think that's the next step, right? Is that teams now are yeah, go ahead and shoot it. But if they could get to a point where a guy would actually take a half step towards him and it truly changes the geometry of the floor, then it's actually a weapon. Now it's more like a novelty. And it's got to move for Nurk, the thing is moving from novelty to weapon. And I think in theory, it's fine. I just think he's so big and offensive rebounding has actual real value in the league. I don't mean to be old, but get your ass in the paint.
I actually got a mailbag question that I think this will have gone up by the time.
We're a week out. We're a week out.
Yeah. This is going to go out later in the week for paid subscribers. But I got a question about what Nurk's role is going to be this year, and the person, I don't have their name off the top of my head, but the person made an interesting, just threw something out there that I had never considered before. What if Nurk has and I think he has to stay healthy enough for this to be a real thing, but it's kind of an interesting idea. What if he has a second half of his career arc like Brook Lopez?
Yeah. I mean,
I had not considered that as a comparison or a possibility, but I thought that was interesting. I don't know how much I buy into it, but I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, Brook Lopez is the Brooklyn Nets all-time leading scorer. So I'm going to say the first half of his arc was very different than Nurk. So,
but you know what I mean about how like he became a good 3-point shooter later in his career. I think Nurk before the injury was like a pretty decent defender, but like Brook,
yes,
is a defensive player of the year guy into his mid-30s now. Like that, I thought that was interesting. I don't know how much I believe that, but I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I'm skeptical of it, but I like the idea, right? Like someone who can anchor a defense and bombs away. Hey, speaking of good nicknames, Splash Mountain as a nickname for Brook Lopez.
That's phenomenal.
I love Splash Mountain.
It's great because it's Mountain because he's big. He can shoot threes. He's a big Disney guy, so like that, like it just works. It works on so many levels. Yeah,
Splash Mountain is really good. Okay, final over under of the episode: 30.5 wins for the Blazers. Over or under?
Under.
Confidently under.
Under, yeah.
Even if Damian Lillard plays 17 games.
He was on the team this year and they won 27 games.
Yeah, well, let's say if they had so if he set out the last 10. Say they split those games, they would have won 32. The previous year they won 33 with some pretty aggressive tanking. So I think
they got worse this year because they're
lost. Worse. They're definitely
worse.
Worse.
Drew Eubanks. They've lost multiple guys who were like actually in their rotation. Like I unless they go totally the other way and Dame rescinds the trade request and they trade Simons for an actual starting caliber wing, and which none of this I think is going to happen.
Yeah, right.
No, they're gonna. I think the number I have in my head, no matter what happens, I think they're going to be right around 27. That's
all right.
Where I would have them. Don't take betting advice from me. Just legally,
yeah.
I'm not the one. You should not take betting advice from me, but I think they're going to be mid 20s.
I would lean cautiously over.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Cautious, but I'm not I would go under 35.
Oh God.
But I think 32 and 50 is on the table just because they have coin toss games. There aren't the problem is there aren't that many bad teams in the league. Yeah. There's not the Wemby teams this year. There's not that.
Because this next draft class is not. It's the 25 draft class is the one that's supposed to have Cooper Flagg and Carlos Boozer's kid. That's the one. That's the next draft class that's this is the one that teams are going to be lining up trying to get in for. This is one. Now I don't know how much that to buy because there will be years where you can say a year out this isn't a good draft class, but who did the Blazers hire for their front office? Mike Schmitz. He's got guys he likes, but if there's ever a year to have it be you're rebuilding and it's not the worst thing in the world to win a few more games, this
totally.
might be the year.
But
I just don't think the talent-wise, I don't think they're going to
No, they're not. I totally agree with you talent-wise, 100%. There's just the rest of the league too. The Spurs are probably going to be pretty bad. But Houston, an awful team the last few years, they're going to be pretty good. Or at least they want to be good. They
sign vets. They might not actually be good.
There's I would actually say, if you're listening to this, Jackson Gatlin, host of Locked On Rockets, just mute the next 15 seconds. I think there's a pretty good chance the Rockets suck. But
I agree.
But they are not going to try to lose. So they're going to win.
So who are we looking at that's going to be really bad besides Portland and San Antonio? Detroit, I think. Yeah, Detroit's one. I'm pretty low on Charlotte. There's been some talk of they're getting Miles Bridges back, which obviously is a whole thing.
Yeah, they have enough adults that I don't think they're going to be terrible because Gordon Hayward when he plays is totally competent. He's certainly better than the Blazers' small forward options. So I think they're going to win 37 games or whatever. They're also going to 34. And PJ Washington is a totally competent NBA player and all that. They're going to be bad. I think
just by default, who are we looking at as teams that are going to be bad?
Detroit, Washington, San Antonio.
Oh, Washington. Yeah, duh. Yeah.
Neither of the Florida teams, not Atlanta, not the New York teams. That might be honestly,
not
Charlotte
Philly,
might be not Philly. That might be the other. We'll see what happens with the Pacers. I think they're better and they've been competitive, but there's a chance they're bad.
I could see the Bulls going totally off the rails.
Yeah, if they unload some of their guys, especially if they ever go that way.
I could see that I could see that one going off.
But even then, you're talking about a team that wins again 35-ish, 35, 38. Like there's not there other than potentially San Antonio, Detroit, Portland. There aren't many teams that are like this team might win 17 games. There's no there's just not that many teams that are like Washington conceivably. It's like, "Oh, whoops. That's a 17 win."
Washington is the one where you're just like it's clear what they're trying to do. They were in the position that most people thought Portland would be in with this Dame thing. They were just like, we want to rebuild. We will take whatever we can get for him just to get off the money. Like,
yeah, and they gave an even worse contract to Brad Beal. Also, Brad Beal's like a million times worse than Dame. So
yes, that's also the other thing that I've had to. I mean, like they also like they salary dump Porzingis. Like they're gonna like Jordan Poole's gonna average whatever number you want to. If we want to do over unders for non-Blazer stuff, whatever the number you want to give me for Jordan Poole's average is, I will take the over. Whatever number you want to give me for his field goal percentage, I will take the under.
He's definitely going to get him up, and there's a chance they trade Kyle Kuzma at the deadline, a totally good player who they gave a descending contract.
It's gonna be like the Jordan Poole thing is gonna be like, remember that year that like Jerry Stackhouse won the scoring title and he shot like 38% from the field. Like I could see that being like what happens with Jordan Poole this year.
I hope Jordan Poole wins a scoring title. That'd be nice, a little redemption arc for him.
Be fun, yeah.
All right, Classic Blazers podcast. We end up talking about the Wizards at the end. That's how we do it here on Locked On Blazers. Sean, thank you so much for joining the program. I truly appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. This was fun.
I'll give you here's a free promotion for you. The free promotion is that you were on 3 straight episodes of the show. But
of course,
Sean is a fully independent journalist covering the team. He's not beholden to clicks or corporate media or all of those things. He's beholden to you, the subscriber. So go subscribe to his stuff. Rose Garden Report it's a newsletter that comes to your inbox. There is a podcast component. Go subscribe. You can interact with Sean. He's going to bring you stuff you want to read, and you're going to be a smarter, better fan for it. Like I said, this all summer, this kind of the mess of the Damian Lillard podcast, the mess of Damian Lillard drama.
Well, podcast Sean, too, but
he's shout out to my good friends at Showtime. But Sean has provided nuance and clarity on kind of what's happening from a Blazers perspective in a place that you just like aren't going to find it anywhere else. So go subscribe to the Rose Garden Report. You'll be better for it. Sean, thanks again for joining the program.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Dear listeners, come back. We're doing more of this 3 days a week, all August long and into September. Tell your friends about the podcast. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.